First Class Productions.
The fourth entry in the Ratchet & Clank series was originally meant to be a vehicular combat racer, more twisted metal than platformer. The pitch was basically, drive fast, shoot everything and make new enemies in traffic. Then Insomniac Games found out their friends over at Naughty Dog were working on Jak X. They realized the PS2 didn't need two first-party combat racers trying to body check each other in the same release window, and pivoted. The driving idea didn't completely disappear, but the end result, released in 2005, was something else entirely. Ratchet Gladiator, or Ratchet Deadlocked as it's known in North America, is a game built around arenas, combat challenges, and a big dumb TV show that treats violence like it's family entertainment. My history with this game is kinda ridiculous. I first played Ratchet Gladiator in 2009, right after I beat Ratchet & Clank 3. I went in thinking it would just be a little side dish before the real next adventure. To my surprise, it grabbed me by the collar and I loved it so much that I beat the whole thing in 3 days. And then I did what I do with most games in this series, except for the very first one, and never played it again. Which is funny because even now, right before finally replaying it, I still think this might be the best game in the entire franchise. Yes, really. I'm aware that's not the popular pick. Most fans point to the bigger adventures, the proper Ratchet & Clank games. Meanwhile, I'm over here saying the best one might be the game where Ratchet gets kidnapped into a televised death sport. So let's do the smart thing and revisit it. Join me as I find out if Ratchet Gladiator still lives up to my sky-high expectations.
GFrom, the gamer, the legend, he's come to show you the way in this world of games. GFrom Reviews.
For the first time in the series, you get to pick a difficulty right at the start. And because I'm trying to impress my 2009 self, I went straight for the hardest option available. Let's see if I'll regret that decision in about 10 minutes. Now, Ratchet Gladiator is built around a TV show called DreadZone, pretty much illegal combat sports for the worst people in the galaxy. It's run by the wonderfully trustworthy Gleeman Vox, and it takes place in a lawless region of space where the rules are simple. Ratings first, Lombax rights never.
Ratchet, I just wanted to warn you before...
Alarm! Alarm!
Ratchet, Clank and Al get kidnapped, dragged into DreadZone and strapped into explosive collars. Ratchet wakes up in brand new armor, disoriented, confused and gets hit with the pitch right away. Complete the qualification course or they'll terminate all 3 of them. So yeah, welcome to DreadZone. The first objective is to use the right analog stick to move the camera. Thanks, I've played a video game before. There's also a mini-map and you can enlarge it by pressing R3. Useful. What's not useful is the fact that there don't seem to be any subtitles. Why? Subtitles feel like the bare minimum here. Once again, you gain experience points by turning enemies into scrap metal. The more you fight, the more you level up, which increases your health bar. The weapons upgrade too, this time all the way up to level 10. You start off with the dual Vipers, which are small submachine guns and the latest evolution of the Blaster, Lancer and N60 Storm. You also get the Magma Cannon, a chunky shotgun that fills the same role as the Blitz gun or Shock Blaster. Walk up, delete problem, keep moving. The first wave of enemies goes down fast and then Ratchet gets confronted with his new reality.
Note the deadlock collar securely fastened around your neck. This collar cannot be broken or removed. Should you stray into any restricted area, the collar will administer an extremely painful shock.
You arrive at DreadZone Station, the game's hub world. This is where you check the current leaderboard and visit Al.
Hey, Ratchet.
He sets you up with 2 combat bots that stick with you for the entire ride. They're genuinely useful and later you can upgrade them once you've got more bolts to burn. Clank, meanwhile, doesn't come with you. He just sits here whispering into your ear like a podcast you never subscribed to. From there you can take a ride to the Battle Dome and the game properly takes the gloves off. First of all, I adore the DreadZone logo. It should be printed on an energy drink can. And once you step inside, you're introduced to the anchors, Dallas and Juanita. He does most of the talking.
Well, here he is. He's a little guy, isn't he? Well, don't bother getting up for drinks, folks. This guy won't last 2 rounds.
We'll see.
I'd rather not. They're entertaining for the most part. The problem is repetition. You're going to hear some lines so often they'll start living rent-free in your head. The bots are more than just background decoration too. If one gets too damaged, you can tell it to repair itself. You can also call them to your position with a button press. They'll crank nodes for you, though sometimes I want to do it myself because I'm stubborn like that. And then the game goes one step further. Some enemies literally can't be beaten unless your buddies toss out an EMP. So they're very much part of the combat system as opposed to optional sidekicks. And because Clank isn't on your back, the platforming is much more basic. But the game also gives you a lot less of it, so it's not trying to be that kind of Ratchet game anyway. This is a great display of what Gladiator is all about. Also, my god, the music when you complete a challenge. It's such a perfect payoff sting. I remember getting excited for it every single time it played back then. And it's funny because when I first played this, it landed at the exact right moment for me. I spent most of my teens listening to rap, and right around 2009 I was getting into rock. So the game's whole aggressive, guitar-driven vibe just clicked with my brain like it was custom made. And while you're out there doing your best to stay alive, Vox is already annoyed because his current big star, Ace Hardlight, isn't as popular with viewers as he thinks he should be.
Why is it that I can't give this stuff away?
Even inside an intergalactic death show, the real enemy is still audience engagement. Please subscribe. To pick your next destination, you step into the planetary transport and the game shows you the menu for the whole season of Suffering. 9 planets and 4 more tournaments. Only 1 planet is unlocked right now though. They come with 15 skill points each and every one of them pays out a different bolt reward. So I'll say it right away, I'm not actively going after skill points on this run. 165 is a ridiculous number. You'll probably get most of them by accident anyway. So let's go to Catacrom Four, a robot burial ground. The objective is subtle. Reach the end of the stage and delete everything that moves. This is the design philosophy for most of Gladiator. Levels are usually completely linear, so you can't get lost. This time around they get chopped into smaller chunks. You clear a section, you get the challenge complete screen, and then you're thrown into the next one. Which is nice, because it means I get to hear that victory music more often. This place is packed with robot zombies, and they put my confidence into a blender. I got my ass handed to me. So thank you vendors, truly. I bought the B6 Obliterator, a grenade launcher that fills the same role as the gravity bomb or nitro launcher. Also, the swing shot is back and continues to bring me childish joy. I see a hook, I press the button, and my brain goes whee! Then the game introduces the first vehicle, the Landstalker. It moves like a refrigerator with legs. Turning is slow. It's not exactly graceful, but sidesteps help a little. The upside is that it compensates with raw violence. You've got guns and mortars that lock onto targets. For a brief moment you feel like the arena is scared of you instead of the other way around. There are also vehicle pads that let you heal, which is a neat idea, except this section is so short I barely noticed them. This is also where Al tells you the bots can use a super attack when the Avenger symbol appears. I often forget it exists because I'm busy doing other important tasks, but it sure is strong. Once the main objective is done, you unlock the Dread challenges. They look optional at first, but you need points to keep the story moving. So they're optional in the same way oxygen is optional. The first one has you ride a hover bike that can strafe, jump and shoot. It's a checkpoint race that's not difficult, but fun once the controls click. A bit floaty, sure, but it works. Then it's kill 66 enemies in 90 seconds with the Landstalker, which was over way faster than I expected. The final one has you destroy 3 ancient statues guarded by zombies. I made some new purchases. First, the Hollow Shield launcher, the only defensive weapon in the game, which is suspiciously similar to the Hollow Shield glove. Then I bought my first Omega mod, Acid. Mods are one of the best ideas in Gladiator. Omega mods add extra effects, though not every mod works with every weapon. Acid adds damage over time. Then you've got Alpha mods which tweak weapon behavior. Fire rate, radius, ammo capacity, all the good stuff. The more you upgrade a weapon, the more Alpha mod slots you unlock. You start mixing and matching and it feels like you've got a little mad scientist lab attached to your inventory. When everything's done, the next level unlocks. Catacrom 4 is an almost flawless first impression. I'm not the biggest fan of hordes of zombie robots, but the pacing is tight, the combat is mean, and the game is already delivering what it promised. Pure, focused, relentless action. The swamp of Sarathos is just as depressing as the previous setting, and it almost smells through the TV. At least the enemy lineup has changed. No zombie robots this time. Now you're dealing with leviathans, or scorpions, that shoot green stuff at you. The main goal is to make your way to the arena, and on your way there, your bots start using their new hacker to unlock doors. This takes a few seconds.
Folks, what is this sneaky Lombax doing behind the arena? This could be nothing. It's nothing, he's getting ammo.
Pretty soon you find the Puma, which instantly becomes a source of delight. The controls are sharp, it's fast and responsive, and it's so much more enjoyable than the Landstalker. You run over enemies, blast them into the swamp, all while your bots are turning nodes in the background. Now that's teamwork right there. Another thing I appreciate is how the game handles death. When you die, it remembers how many nodes you already turned, so even though you respawn at the start, you don't have to redo the whole routine again. It keeps the pace up and saves you from pointless repetition, which is important because Gladiator already has plenty of it by design. When you finally reach the arena, the setup for the boss fight is that your bots need to activate all the orbs first. I'm not a big supporter of the orb mechanic because it demands a little patience, but it's manageable. Once the King of Leviathans actually shows up, the fight doesn't feel threatening at all. He mostly stands there and shoots while you run circles around the arena. Sarathos only has 2 dread challenges. The first is another hoverbike checkpoint race, but this time the track is stuffed with explosive barrels. I'm into this. The second one, not so much. In the Landstalker you have to kill 23 Leviathans within a time limit. I failed once because I took a dumb route and ran out of time, then I made it with 3 seconds to spare. I would have hated repeating it again because this one's a slog and the Landstalker is even less fun under a timer. Overall though, I like this planet more than the previous one. Sarathos may not be a cheerful place, but it makes good use of its gross little swamp vibe, and the Puma is easily the highlight of the whole section. You're introduced to Shell Shock, and he does remind me of someone.
Those Omega twins went down like wee little girly men.
Who could it be? I have no idea.
This guy is here for one reason: to pick a fight and enjoy himself way too much while doing it. Planet Kronos has Ratchet making his way to the Dark Cathedral, and after swamp and scrapyards, it's refreshing to get an urban setting. The first thing I did was go shopping, because Kronos isn't interested in letting me coast. I picked up the Hunter Mine Launcher, which works like the Mine Glove. Little mines that scoot towards enemies like they've got a personal grudge. Then I grabbed the Fusion Rifle too, a sniper in the same family as the Pulse Rifle or Flux Rifle. Perfect for popping targets from far away. Turrets are around to help you save ammo, but I'm trying to upgrade my weapons, so I'm treating those like background decoration. My bots also learn a new trick here. They can launch grind cables. I'm truly happy to see the grind boots return. They were missing in the third game and that bummed me out. Before the first shell shock encounter, I also equipped the Napalm mod, which spawns pools of lava with every shot. I prefer my battles with a little environmental trauma on the side. The first fight with Shell Shock is mostly an introduction though. Mr. Big Shot makes a lot of noise, takes a few hits and then bails after just over a minute. Then the game throws you into a long grind rail section while robots attack you, and you can only use the dual Vipers, which is completely fine because this is the kind of Ratchet action I missed. It took me back to some happy memories from the first 2 games. After that, Kronos goes back to the same rhythm. Push forward, fight Shell Shock, watch him retreat again, grind. The final showdown with Robo Arnold takes place across 4 rooms, and you have to crank bolts to progress, so you're fighting and multitasking. Even on hard difficulty, this guy is more bark than bite. He looks intimidating, but collapses once you keep pressure on him.
Seems we've underestimated our Lombax friend.
You got lucky. Shell Shock was too slow and too stupid to be an exterminator.
Then come the Dread challenges. The first one introduces the hover ship, and I had a blast. Flying around and deleting everything in sight feels great, and the controls are solid enough that I never fought the camera or the ship. The second has a tiny arena that shrinks over time unless your bots hack orbs, so you're juggling enemies, space and bot management all at once. Kronos is a good time. It's heavy on action, breaks things up with some fun grinding, and keeps the pace moving. The enemy variety could have been less generic and the structure can feel samey, but I enjoyed myself a lot here.
You worry me, Ratchet.
Yeah, me too. Back in DreadZone Station, I did the responsible thing and invested in my bot buddies. More armor, more damage, and a protective shield for when they're using the hack array. Now it's time for the Avenger Tournament in the Battle Dome, and this one's very straightforward. First you've got to kill 60 enemies in 90 seconds, then you fight your way through the arena. Lastly, you climb a tower by jumping across flipping platforms before going right back to violence. It's short-lived and there's no boss fight waiting at the end to drag it out.
After making his fortune selling cigarettes to children, Ratchet went on to pilot a tanker ship for Zexon.
A week later, Ratchet got drunk and crashed his tanker into the ocean world of Aquados. Who can forget these graphic images of baby seals smothered in radioactive waste? Little Coco never had a chance.
How could you? What did little Coco ever do to you?
The propaganda is getting out of hand.
How can you believe these ridiculous lies?
Feels a little too close to home nowadays. Before leaving, I treated myself to the Arbiter, your standard rocket launcher. Same basic job as the Devastator, the mini rocket tube, or the Annihilator. Why does this weapon need a different name in every game? It's a rocket launcher, we all know what it does. Sporting your brand new armor, you now get a choice between two planets. I went to Shaar. I'm all for doing things in order because I'm a disciplined person. Shaar is an icy planet built around a temple.
You can use the charge boots for quick bursts of speed.
Thanks for reminding me the charge boots exist. Love those. The enemies start getting nastier here and I definitely felt the difficulty ramp up, especially once the mission forces you into the next Landstalker ordeal. There are other Landstalkers firing at you and you can only take them out after hitting them with an EMP toss from your bots. So you're being bombarded from every direction while trying to maneuver a vehicle that moves with all the urgency of a filing cabinet. I started to properly detest this thing. The slow movement speed turns every firefight into a drawn-out argument. I died over 10 times and I'll be the first one to admit I probably played too aggressively. Patience isn't always my strong suit. To keep myself sane, I expanded my arsenal with a scorpion flail. At last, a brand new weapon, and it's without question one of my favorites in the entire series. Swinging that thing and slamming it into the ground is one of the most satisfying things you'll do all week. And it just gets better as you upgrade it. To clear the stage, you have to rotate 5 well-protected nodes, and given how many times I had to restart, I became increasingly thankful the game saves the ones you've already done. The dread challenges also start turning up the heat. The first one is another node hunt, but with a twist. Your weapons are scattered around the area, and you can only carry one at a time. It becomes a little scavenger run where knowing the layout helps, because the best weapon is only useful if you actually remember where it is. Then comes the Landstalker, and it's the worst one so far. You have to destroy floating targets while the vehicle moves automatically, so you can only aim and shoot. For some reason I thought the mortar didn't work, which is why I was only using the guns, and I couldn't do it. Not even close. Then I eventually realized, oh, the mortar does work after all. Maybe I didn't press the button hard enough the first time, who knows. With the mortar it becomes manageable, especially if you keep an eye out for the yellow jackpot targets. But man is it boring. There's nothing engaging about it. You point, shoot, hold the trigger, and your brain goes into standby mode. The next objective is more fun, where you wipe out nothing but swarmers. 181 is a very specific number though. So yeah, this was one of the less enjoyable stretches for me. Shaar gets dragged down by the sluggish Landstalker, and even the regular gunplay left me a bit underwhelmed. With Orxon, one of the more memorable planets from the first game makes a comeback, and it hasn't lost any of its toxic charm. Before starting the mission, I grabbed another Omega mod, this time Shock. If you thought Orxon was rough in Ratchet Clank 1, this version keeps the tradition alive. The Labyrinth of Death lets you pick between two paths, which sounds like a nice bit of variety until you realize both options are about the same thing. Gameplay-wise, it doesn't matter much, and I failed on both multiple times. This is also where the game makes it very clear that dealing with Landstalkers and turrets on foot requires an actual plan. Charging in like you own the place only works until you feel the pain in your face. There were a few moments here where I considered lowering the difficulty just to make life less frustrating, but I didn't. At this point, I'm too stubborn to admit defeat. So I kept going, and eventually I pushed through. The following open area was more manageable and the pace loosened up for a moment. Then it culminates in another Landstalker section where, thankfully, you control the thing yourself. It's over quickly, so I'm not complaining. Yet. I shouldn't have said anything because there's one more dread challenge where you're grinding for points and it took me 3 tries. The entire time I was thinking about all the things in life I could have done instead. So yeah, sorry to say I didn't enjoy this stretch too much either. Between the labyrinth and the land stalking, there wasn't much breathing room for me to have a good time for more than a few seconds.
This holiday season, Vox Entertainment brings you the heartwarming true story of one exterminator's rise to glory. From lowly beginnings as a high school math teacher.
But baby, I'm giving these kids the gift of learning.
You're pathetic. Get out of my sight.
To spectacular success as a homicidal sports superstar.
We're rich. I love you, Reactor. I was always there for you.
On my next visit to Al, I upgraded the bots again, this time giving them the ability to hit targets from a greater distance. I also grabbed the final remaining weapon, the mini turret launcher, which is a new take on the mini turret glove. And it took me a second to even find it because it's the only weapon in your quick select that doesn't fit on the first screen. You have to press square to see it. Not impressed. I also upgraded the wrench twice, which feels like wasted bolts now that I think of it, because I rarely used the thing. I shoot rockets like a normal person. Tournament number 3 is coming up. The Crusador Tournament doesn't offer a ton of brand new ideas, but it does throw in one mechanic that at least shakes things up a bit. You have to adjust glowing grind rails to progress. This one ends with a boss fight, which makes it feel like more of an event. You go up against Reactor, and he's the toughest boss so far, I think. He's got a decent spread of attacks, including a charge that can catch you off guard. And it did, more than once. Still, he goes down in the end, and the reward is another set of armor. After the previous 2 levels not being my cup of tea, this tournament felt like Gladiator getting back to what it does best, and I'm all here for it. 2 more stages unlocked. First up, the Valix Belt, an asteroid belt sitting right next to a black hole. Visually, it's strong. Gameplay-wise, the first mission gave me the most grief. The enemies hit hard, they show up in numbers, and when things go wrong, they go wrong fast. This is one of those times where I caught myself wishing the game had checkpoints, because repeating the same opening stretch after a dumb death gets old quickly. My new freeze mod helped a lot though, and it ended up becoming one of my favorites. Any tool that buys you breathing room in this game deserves respect. The hover ship gets some more love, which I appreciate, and then you spend the rest of your time hacking orbs and causing a decent amount of havoc. At least there's some swing shot action in between, because a little bit of movement and rhythm goes a long way when the combat starts to blur together. Also, just in case you were wondering why you're even here, the story's excuse is that you need to reactivate a lighthouse to stop ships from crashing into asteroids. One of the dread challenges is another checkpoint race, but this time in the hover ship, which is a nice little distraction. Even though the overall structure is starting to feel a bit monotonous, the setting is dope and I'm sold on it more than Shaar and Orxon. Planet Torval stands out immediately with that orange-red sky, and if I didn't know better, this could pass for a finale just based on the vibe. It starts out familiar until they throw you the hover bike. Here you can drive it around pretty freely, sort of, because the main job is chasing 12 drones. So yeah, you're driving in circles, but I don't even mind. After that, the game asks you if you want to keep using the bike or continue on foot. The smart choice is obvious. Stay on foot, level your weapons, be efficient. But I'm a simple man. I see a hover bike and lose all sense of logic. The last mission switches back to on-foot combat and has you blow up a statue of Ace Hardlight, kinda like Spyro did with the statue of the Sorceress in his 3rd outing, and I respect it. There's only one dread challenge here, and for once you're in a turret. I'm usually not the biggest supporter of turret sections, but this one is so short it barely leaves an impression. Torval might be the stretch I enjoyed the most. I'm not kidding. The pacing feels just right, and it made me wish the bike was a bigger part of the rest of the game.
Well, since you asked, I have 16 terabits of tri-directional asynchronous bandwidth on my core CPU.
Ooh, that is a lot of throughput.
Clank's being a total player again. Just when you think you've seen everything in the shop, the game reveals one more weapon hiding in the corner. The Harbinger. Harbinger? Help? A rival to the Rhino, and it comes with a price tag of 2 million bolts. 2 million. That might as well be an in-game joke aimed directly at me, so yeah, I'm not touching it. Anyway, back to the usual routine. Quick visit to Al, more upgrades for my bot buddies, and straight into the next tournament. The Vindicator Tournament is pure gunplay. It starts with a random weapons event, which makes you realize that your favorite loadout is a privilege, not a right. After that, you get a barrel range section that that goes on for over 2 minutes. The arena turns into a constant hazard zone. The finale is a boss fight against the Eviscerator. This one is insane. The screen is packed with projectiles, effects, and general nonsense flying in every direction. You have to move constantly and stay aware of what's around you, because standing still for even a moment is basically agreeing to get erased. It took me a few tries to bring him down, but that win felt earned. And the armor upgrade at the end was a nice little victory lap. Al manages to break open Clank's collar, which feels like a real turning point for a second. And then Ace Hardlight shoots him. Here we go! Finally something interesting story-wise. I almost didn't think the game was capable of pulling that kind of move. 2 more planets to cross off the list, so let's hit Stygia first. This one's easy to summarize. 4 straightforward missions. You get 2 on foot sections, plus 1 landstalker and 1 hovership mission. So it cycles through the usual toys without dragging any single one out for too long. By this point, I've upgraded my weapons enough that the difficulty doesn't feel as demanding anymore. The enemies can still punish you if you get sloppy, but I'm not fighting for my life every 10 seconds either. I also picked up the Morph mod, which turns enemies into explosive farm animals. You know I love this stuff. It's stupid in the best way, and it never stops being funny when an intense firefight turns into a barnyard with a countdown. The whole planet goes by quickly, and it's also only one of 2 stages with no dread challenges at all. A quick check mark on the list. No complaints from me. On planet Maraxus, your combat bots are in prison, and it's your duty to break them out. Which means Ratchet is completely on his own for a little while. In theory, that sounds like a big deal. In practice, it didn't feel all that different to me, and within minutes, you've already found the first bot again. So the dramatic loneliness arc lasts about as long as a loading screen. My inner child was very happy to see the Puma return. Have I mentioned the gravity boots are back? I also picked up the Brainwash mod, which makes enemies attack each other. Before long, the gang is back together. To calm your nerves, the game throws in another simple checkpoint race. I could do without the target nonsense though. I did win it on the first try this time, so it only earned mild annoyance instead of full anger. Does Maraxus stand out?
Not really.
Did I enjoy myself?
Yeah, I did.
It doesn't bring much new to the table, but as long as I'm still having fun, I can live with a planet that just does the basics well. Time for the final tournament. The Liberator Tournament is the big one. Of course it can't just hand you the boss fight, it has to mess with you first. One of the opening trials boosts your speed up to 200% and it's completely unhinged. Once the warm-up is over, you get the fight you came here for. Ace has a nice spread of attacks, and the best thing I can say is none of them feel cheap. When you get hit, it's on you. What surprised me most is how fast he went down. For the supposed golden boy of DreadZone, he crumples quickly once you stop giving him the respect he thinks he deserves.
No wonder no one's buying his action figures.
Beating him gets you another armor set, and this one is pure greatness. It's one of the most badass designs I've ever seen, and I used it as my PSN profile picture for almost 10 years, until Sonic Mania arrived and stole the slot. That's a strong run for a piece of armor. After the tournament, Vox offers Ratchet the chance to become the new star of his show. You can probably guess the answer.
You actually think I'd kill other heroes to get rich? You're not just corrupt, you're stupid.
Now, I wanted to move on with the story right away, but I couldn't access the next level yet because I had unfinished business in the Battle Dome. Every tournament comes with dread challenges that I completely ignored, so I'll do all of them now, 11 in total. This took me a bit over an hour, and it was a weird mix of victory laps and sudden misery, because early on I was completely overpowered. Some of these have little twists though. One has gas that drains your health. Another doesn't let you take a single hit. One forces you to use only the wrench. The first one that genuinely gave me trouble was the one with those cursed zombies. Things improved once I stopped running around and just stayed in a corner, letting them come to me. Not all rounds are combat focused either. One is more platform based, and either it's actually tricky or I was just extremely clumsy that day, hard to tell. The final event kicked my ass too. Your health and ammo both drain constantly, so you have to keep collecting supplies while surviving wave after wave. Still, despite the repetition, I enjoyed most of my time here, with the zombie one being the low point. With all that extra cash, I bought the final Omega mod, Time Bomb. Sticky grenades that explode with a delay. I also fully upgraded the wrench and it's now literally on fire.
Hardcore.
Ratchet gets sent to the supposedly unbeatable Ghost Station. And the scariest thing about this place is that the game froze on me. Don't you just love it when the real final boss is your console deciding it needs a break? This one packs a punch. Hard enemies, relentless pressure. Even when you're grinding, you're fighting for survival. If you thought robot zombies were a strange enough enemy choice, now you've got ghost zombies. As brutal as the Ghost Station is, the hovership section at the end is extremely easy. I'll take it. The game is nearing its end, and I think that's probably for the better.
Ratchet, I have found a way to shut down the containment fields and release all the heroes.
You're kidding. That's amazing.
He's had help.
So Al is alive after all. Kinda.
Whoa. Okay.
Of course, it's a trap. Vox has wired the battle dome to blow, planning to wipe out everyone except himself. Spoiler alert, the control level is without a doubt the hardest part of the whole game. The first section throws you into a long linear run with a time limit of a little over 8 minutes on the first attempt. Die and suddenly you get 10 minutes. What's the logic?
Did the timer feel bad for me?
Either way, it's brutal, and the lack of checkpoints becomes a real problem because I kept dying near the end and had to replay the entire stretch from start again and again. The enemies hit like trucks and there are so many of them. Once you claw your way through that first chunk, the game keeps the pressure on. The next two sections also have time limits, 10 minutes each. The first timed segment was the worst for me by far. That's where I cursed at the TV the most. I even started using turrets, ignoring my usual urge to focus on weapon upgrades just to stay alive. Then you reach the final boss, Gleeman Vox himself. And because he can't resist being annoying to the very end, he brings ghost robot zombies into the arena with him. I'm so tired of these guys. The fight wouldn't be too bad on paper, but the damage is ridiculous. One mistake and your health bar can drain in seconds. I'd spend most of the game mixing Omega mods across different weapons to keep things fun, but here I went into full survival mode and slapped the freeze and shock mods on everything. This final boss is a real climax, and after all that struggle I managed to beat the game on hard mode. That part felt amazing. The control level as a whole though was a bit much. Ratchet makes it out alive, Vox dies, and we get the ending we deserved. Credits roll, and right at the very end there's a short clip of Dr. Nefarious and Lawrence still floating in space.
How was I to know it would suddenly explode?
Oh, Janice. It's been so long.
As usual, once you beat the game, you can either jump back to before the final boss or start challenge mode. You keep your bolts, weapons, wrench upgrades, mods and combat bot upgrades. So you're starting from a place of unhealthy power. Now you can buy alpha mods and mega versions of your fully upgraded weapons for truly obnoxious prices. And they can be leveled all the way up to 99. Because apparently level 10 was just the warm-up. Thankfully, the bolt multiplier is back too. You also unlock some extras such as concept art and character epilogues. Skill points you got along the way have unlocked some cheats. This time around, I did in fact play a bit more challenge mode, mainly because I got my friend P-Rex to join me for an hour of co-op. We toned the difficulty down to contestant because he wasn't familiar with the game and I wasn't trying to turn this into a friendship test. It started out terribly though, because the game froze almost instantly.
But I'm dead.
Doesn't it? Hello?
It just...
The game froze.
Froze.
Wow, the game fucking froze.
Hey, let it go.
And even after we got past that, the frame rate was awful. Anytime there was a lot happening on screen, it turned into a slideshow. That rarely happened when I played solo, so in co-op it really dragged the whole experience down. Which is a shame, because underneath the performance mess, this mode is addictive.
Laser shooting scorpions!
Yeah, man.
What a time to be alive. Laser shooting scorpions before GTA 6.
Weapons upgrade laughably fast. Within a minute, I had already pushed a weapon up 3 levels. It's just constant carnage and the game can barely keep up with itself. When one player dies, they respawn after a few seconds unless the other player dies too. In the Landstalker, one player handles movement and the main guns while the other controls the mortars. Better than nothing, I guess. One important difference is that you don't get combat bots in co-op, so you have to hack the orbs yourself, which changes the flow more than you'd think. I adore the teamwork aspect, and if you want to see highlights of our session, you can support me on Patreon or become a YouTube member, because I'm putting that up as exclusive content. I'm stuck! What happened?
Where are you?
Are we too far apart?
Let's drive.
Hey!
Ach, scheiße!
Wait for me! You fucking asshole! The good news is you can switch between solo and co-op on any save file, so I can keep going on my own whenever I please. But this is where I stop for now. One day, I might return.
Oh lord, oh lord, oh please.
Oh lord!
That's a little gospel singing. I'm from Texas.
Lord have mercy!
No! Oh fucking hell!
This game also has a competitive multiplayer mode, and P-Rex joined me for about an hour of that too. It's cut from the same cloth as Ratchet Clank 3's multiplayer, so you'll feel at home right away. But there are some differences that jump out once you start poking at it. The official online servers have been shut down for years, so offline split screen it is. And for whatever reason, the HD version also refuses to do 4-player local play anymore, which means 2 players is all you've got. Deathmatch and Capture the Flag are back. Siege is gone, replaced with Conquest, where you capture and hold nodes. And King of the Hill is here too. In a world where you could play this online with a full lobby of up to 10 players, I can easily imagine it being a blast. With 2 players though, it's a different story. The maps feel huge, the pacing slows down, and half the match is just hunting each other down like it's an awkward game of hide and seek with rocket launchers. Deathmatch was the only mode that held our attention because at least it keeps things focused. Content-wise, there's a decent amount here. 11 maps, 8 weapons, 4 vehicles, loads of skins, and a number of settings. You can tweak a lot, customize the rules, and you can spice up the experience if you're willing to mess around with it. Performance was also better than co-op for us. No major frame rate disasters this time, which was a relief. Balance, on the other hand, gets silly, especially with vehicles. If one player is tailing the other with a hover ship, it feels like harassment. I thought it was hilarious. P-Rex didn't share my enthusiasm. And that pretty much sums it up. As a 2-player experience today, I don't see myself coming back to this mode. The maps are too big for just 2 people, the modes don't come alive without a crowd, and there are better options out there if you want competitive split-screen joy. I did fancy it about as much as Ratchet 3's multiplayer, and I wish I tried it back in its heyday when it had full online support. Missed chance, I guess.
Let's talk about the music and sound.
When it comes to audio, Ratchet Gladiator commits to its whole violent game show vibe harder than almost anything else in the series. The voice acting is doing a ton of work here because you're constantly being watched, judged, and hyped up by the DreadZone crew. Dallas keeps the energy up like he's had 5 coffees in the last 10 minutes, and it helps the arenas feel like actual events instead of just a string of missions. That said, the repetition can be brutal. Some lines get recycled so often I started groaning before they even finished the first word.
You know, sometimes I think I should have taken that job on Annihilation Nation. They've got a great dental plan. You know, sometimes I think I should have taken that job on Annihilation Nation. They've got a great dental plan. You know, sometimes I think I should have taken that job on Annihilation Nation. They've got a great dental plan.
You know, sometimes I think I should have taken that job on Annihilation Nation. They've got a great dental plan.
Vox got that smug delivery that makes every line sound like he's smiling while signing your death warrant. And the fact that he never drops the performance is why he's so easy to hate.
We'll sell Ratchet action figures, Ratchet sports shoes, Ratchet deodorant, Ratchet breakfast cereal, earmuffs and cologne, soft drinks, hard drinks, energy drinks, breath mints. You get record deals, movie rights, reality shows, video games, and commercials.
Even Clank, stuck on the sidelines, keeps chiming in as the calm voice of reason in a place that has never heard of reason. I'll admit, I got a little tired of him as well after a while.
Ratchet, 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 Ratchet.
Alright, zip it.
Ratchet, my...
Zip it. Zip.
The sound effects are just as important because Gladiator is loud in a very deliberate way. Every weapon has a personality. The dual Vipers have that rapid, rattling spray, shotguns hit with a heavy punch that makes close-range combat feel nasty, and explosive weapons have that chunky impact that turns a messy room into a clean one. The vehicles are excellent too because they have weight and you can hear the difference between driving something clunky and driving something that actually wants to move. The music is the glue that holds all of this together. It is once again composed composed by series veteran David Bergeau, with additional music by Niels by Nielsen, and it matches Gladiator's darker tone exceptionally well. This is one of the most sonically committed Ratchet entries, going more for a guitar-heavy rock sound. Compared to the earlier Ratchet games, this one feels colder and meaner. Instead of the more exploratory feel associated with earlier adventures, the score is engineered around forward pressure, continuous rhythm, and loop-friendly structures that can sit under long stretches of combat without collapsing into background mush. It's got that industrial edge, and it never lets the energy drop for long. I could see some people throwing this on as workout music. The only downside is that with so much going on, it can be hard to focus on the music while you're playing, which makes it difficult to remember individual tracks. That's a shame, because when you do pay attention, this soundtrack absolutely kicks butt. Overall, Gladiator sounds the way it plays. Loud, aggressive, and constantly trying to turn survival into entertainment, even when the structure gets a little loop heavy.
Of course I want to share my favorites, so here are my top 5 songs from Ratchet Gladiator.
Number 5. This one has an industrial bite to it, with sharp metallic sounding hits and a thick low-end pulse that keeps everything feeling urgent and heavy. It has its calm moments, but when the main drive returns, it's instantly back to business, dragging you towards the cathedral whether you're ready or not. Number 4. The hub starts with an ominous intro that settles into a steady groove. It's more about attitude than adrenaline, with a thick electronic pulse and these sharper, buzzy layers on top. I appreciate that it doesn't try to hype you up like an arena theme, it just sits there and builds this cold, smug atmosphere. Also, it kind of reminds me of frozen altars from Spyro 3 for some odd reason. Number 3. This track locks into a driving pulse and just keeps pushing forward, which fits Stygia perfectly since that planet is non-stop combat. It stays clean and punchy instead of dissolving into noise, and that electric guitar slices through the action in a really satisfying way. It does pull back for a brief breather, but it never loses its focus, and that's why it sticks with me. Number 2. The opening track to the Ghost Station kicks off with this tense, uneasy atmosphere. Then it snaps into something that feels made for movement, with bright, sharp electronic textures sitting on top. What I love is the sense of urgency it keeps throughout. If I didn't know better, I'd guess it came straight out of Tekken 3. It's one of those tracks that makes grinding sections feel dangerous on purpose. Like the music is daring you to keep your speed up while everything around you is trying to shut you down. Number 1. No surprise there. This is the ultimate dopamine button, because it hits you with instant payoff and doesn't waste a second getting to the point. It comes in bright and punchy, with a tight driving groove and a really upbeat, victorious edge. It keeps that forward bounce going like it's trying to convince you the last fight was epic and the next one will be even better. You know it's the kind of track that makes even a messy win feel properly earned.
Let's wrap this up.
Ratchet Gladiator is a blast, and it surprised me how quickly it grabbed me again. The controls feel perfected, and out of the PS2 Ratchet games, this one probably plays the best. Everything is snappy and responsive. The game lives and dies by how good it feels to shoot, dodge, and keep moving. The weapon selection is smaller, but I honestly dig the more focused approach. It keeps the loadout tight, and the mod system does a lot of heavy lifting when it comes to variety. Once you start tinkering, you can make familiar weapons feel fresh again. The Scorpion Flail has earned a spot in my personal Hall of Fame. It feels so mighty. This is a combat-first Ratchet game, and if that's what you want from the series, you're going to have a very good time. The platforming is there and does the job, but it's clearly not the reason Gladiator exists. It's more of a quick palate cleanser between firefights.
Difficulty is where my feelings got complicated.
I'm happy about challenging games, but I'm not always crazy about difficulty when the main focus is tougher gunfights. After a while, dying starts to feel repetitive, and I think that's a big reason why this playthrough didn't convince me quite as hard as last time. It also meant I spent a lot more bolts on ammo than in previous games, and I'm pretty sure that's the difficulty setting talking.
To fully enjoy Gladiator again, I probably need to play it on a lower setting. After all, who am I trying to impress? I'm just here to have a good time.
I also have to give the game credit for its tone. It goes for a darker, edgier vibe than the previous games, and I actually like that. The whole game show concept feels meaner and it gives the series a different flavor. The downside is that a lot of the levels are dark and unpleasant to look at, so after a while they start to blur together. It's hard for individual locations to stand out when everything is covered in grime, metal and misery. Variety-wise, the vehicles are a mixed bag. Give me hover bikes, hover ships or the Puma and I'm happy. They control great, are fun to mess around with, and they break up the rhythm in the way the game really needs. The Landstalker though just isn't for me. It feels too sluggish and any mission that leans on it too hard drags the pace down. Co-op, in theory, is Gladiator at its best. When it worked, it was pure bliss. You kind of forget time exists when you're just laughing and causing carnage. Which makes it even more frustrating that the PS3 version running on PS5 tanks the experience with terrible performance. If it wasn't for that, I could absolutely see myself playing through the whole game in co-op. Competitive multiplayer lands in the same place for me as Ratchet Clank 3. With 2 players, it just doesn't hold my attention for long. I can imagine it must have been solid back in its heyday online with full lobbies, but today it's a mode that's missing the one thing it was designed around, a crowd. While most individual tracks aren't necessarily memorable, the soundtrack as a whole is a fitting backdrop for the non-stop action, and I'm a fan. Story-wise, Gladiator is the weakest entry up to this point. Not much happens and you mostly get commercials to break up missions. They're amusing, but nobody is playing this game for the plot. That said, they paint Ratchet as this absolute menace, like he's the galaxy's biggest problem, and it's funny seeing what nonsense they come up with to make him look bad. It leans into the whole propaganda angle in a way that feels on brand for DreadZone.
Fans reacted to Ace's defeat with shock and outrage.
Boo! We hate you, Ratchet. You cheated.
Ratchet is a malicious criminal. He must be punished.
Something I haven't mentioned yet, there's something seriously off about the cutscenes in this HD version. You're seeing it too, right? It looks like frames are missing, so everything comes across as choppy and it's incredibly distracting. I've rarely seen something similar persist through an entire game, and it makes this release feel weirdly unpolished and rushed.
Ranking this one is extremely tough. Is it still my favorite in the series? Definitely not.
Out of the Ratchet & Clank games I've reviewed so far, I'd put it below the first game, but I'd rather play this than 2 and 3. And I'm not trying to downplay how strong those games are, they're classics for a reason. Objectively, they're probably the better games, offering more complexity and better stories. I'm just ranking these based on personal enjoyment, and Ratchet Gladiator hits a very specific set of buttons for me. So whether you love Gladiator comes down to taste. Even as someone who usually isn't obsessed with heavy gunplay, I can't get enough of it here. It's easy to pick up, and it was never aiming to feel like a big grand mainline adventure.
When I sit down and play this game, I lose all sense of time, and the linear nature of it speaks to me.
It starts to blur together near the end, but most missions are short enough that dying doesn't send you back too far, with the exception of those last few missions.
And even with that, I'm glad I came back to it, because Gladiator may be a sidestep for the series, but it's a sidestep that knows exactly what it wants to be.
Hey everyone, this is GFrom. Thank you so much for watching episode 5 of season 6. Feel free to rate, comment, subscribe and follow me on social media. You can also support me on Patreon or become a YouTube member if you like. I'll see you later. Have a nice day.